said he's just a friend.
Back everyone to a brand new edition of Getting Color right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I am Virtue, being joined by the man himself, the jack of all trades. He golfs, he salons, he grocery shops, he fixes up the patio. He's a former WCW hardcore champion, tag team champion, worked in every major promotion on television. Big Vito LaGrasso, what's up?
What's going on, Virtue? It's the BIGV from the LOG, coming to you live, baby, live from the 813, my hometown, Tampa, Florida. How is everybody? Hope everybody's having a great weekend. I hope everybody did some awesome things. You know, we have an action-packed card, lineup, and everything to go. Virtue, I know you've been busting at the seams. You've been texting me. You've been emailing me. Aaron Rifters even called me and said, hey, Big V, want to do a show? The answer is no. Welcome to Getting Color, and I hope everybody's going to enjoy it. Virtue, take it away.
There's a lot of AEW this week because last Sunday was Revolution. Trust me, some stuff happened there, and as well on Dynamite. So let's get this topic out of the way. AEW Revolution reportedly had a good buy rate. Fightful reported 125,000 buys, which of course was just over $5 million in revenue. Now that number is a little lower than what Dave Meltzer was touting a couple of days ago. Obviously, he loves, inflating everything AEW. But Dynamite ratings were kind of lackluster this week, which I find very interesting. So what's your take on the success of the pay-per-view? Good for them. But the TV ratings just still can't even sniff 1 million people.
All right, guys, here's my take on it, right? Now, I was doing my homework this morning. I always do my homework during the week, and I keep up. And today, I was actually the one who submitted all the stuff. Virtue was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. He's on. Because usually I don't say nothing, but I thought today's stuff was pretty interesting. And we're leading off with the pay-per-view buy rates. The pay-per-view buy rates were good. Whether Meltzer said it or Tony Khan said it, they had a successful buy rate. Good for them. The pay-per-view, the overall status and overview of the pay-per-view was not an A+ rating. A lot of people didn't like it. Virtue, do you have specifics on what they didn't like about this pay-per-view?
Yes, and this kind of piggybacks two topics, so let's get them both out of the way here. So AEW's been getting criticized this week especially for some unprofessionalism in terms of the pyro at the end of the exploding barbed wire match between Moxley and Kenny Omega was a fart in church. Not the church that you start in, but it was like Gilbert sparklers and a couple smoke bombs. Clearly they wanted it to be a bigger deal. Something went wrong. Eddie Kingston sold like he was covering Moxley, protecting him. He was probably expecting a big explosion, so he oversold it, did not know that until afterwards that it was a dud. And, of course, on Dynamite this week, some Japanese girl came out singing karaoke while a match was beginning. She was up on the stage and doing her little thing. She proceeded to take the microphone and hit the women's champion in the head, and it just looked so – she didn't even hit her in the head. It was like bop, bop, bop. And it looked awful, and the girl sold it like she really hit her. So it's crazy. That's what they're getting creamed for this week is unprofessionalism. So I just wanted you can piggyback all of that into the Revolution discussion, Vito. What do you think?
Let's take the exploding ring. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I know Tony Khan has spared no expense trying to get the promotion up on its feet. Fair assumption, right?
Yes.
Now, does everything go off as planned? For as long as I have been associated with the WWE, WWF, I can't remember a pyro malfunction as big as that. I think the Kane malfunction with the pyro the one time is something I remember. I think Dave Bautista had a pyro malfunction, which didn't go right.
The Warrior back in the day in like 96 ran out and his little Warrior logo never lit up. So he ran back and came back. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
That was a little bit.
I was going to just say that. But there's a first time for everything. So people are breaking them and criticizing them. And guys, things happen. Now, just to say we would have got the opposite. Let's take hindsight. What happens if that ring exploded and somebody got hurt in the arena because they overloaded it?
That'd be worse than what happened. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So let's take the good that happened out of this, okay? Nobody got hurt. Okay? Did it look like crap? Yes. Did Moxley try to make a joke out of it? Kenny Omega can't build an exploding ring worth of shit? Absolutely. Did Kingston oversell it because he thought it was the right thing to do? Yeah, he did. He thought he was doing the right thing. Okay. Maybe poor judgment. Maybe a little bit more business awareness. Say, hey, Mox, fucking shit didn't go off. Hey, what we gonna do? So you just get up and look surprised, like, okay, we've been had. Guys, everybody makes a mistake. I give them a pass on the exploding ring. I do.
What about the way they tried to cover it up, though? So they just forgot about it instead of like doing this overselling, like it,
Guys, if you have more experienced guys in there, I'm not saying Kingston. I'm sure everybody has wrestling experience, right? Everybody's trying to foot the company line. If you don't sell it, hey, what the hell are you doing? If you do sell it, hey, what the hell are you doing? So it's a 50-50 thing. Like I said, you give Kingston a pass, you give Omega a pass, you give Moxley a pass, you give Tony Khan. It's the first major malfunction. I'm not talking about their product and what they put out week after week. That's my first thing. So from the big Vito brand here on Getting Color, we are giving them a pass. We are not burying nobody just for the fact they got the buy rates and the pay-per-views, and they were, congratulations, guys. Now, secondly, what's your second beef? Go ahead.
So the Japanese girl came out during the women's match, and she was singing, right? That's her gimmick, but she was hitting Sheeta on the head with the microphone, and Sheeta was selling it, and she was. I mean, it was like, it was bad.
All right, Nick, how you doing? What's up, guys? Guys, I'm going to say this. The inexperience of the wrestlers today, because they do not wrestle in territories to gain experience. That's where you gain your experience and know how to do the right thing at the right time. You're living it. The guys today don't live it. They don't know how to react. Guys, you remember, they're not calling their matches in the ring. Everything is high spot, high spot. If you had to call matches in the ring, 3/4 of the roster, 3/4 of wrestling couldn't do it. You'd have the shit fest of a lifetime.
Good point.
Okay? So that's where the inexperience comes in. They give the girls in AEW a lot of flack because they say they're terrible, they're horrible. Impact, there are a handful in AEW and a handful in Impact that are quality wrestlers. I'm not naming names because this is not the show. We don't do that here. We're just saying there's a handful and a handful. Girls, take your time. Figure out the situation. If you don't make a mistake, you don't gain experience. If you do the correct thing on instinct, who's better than you? You get the praise in the back. Honey Bunny Bunny is on. Hi, how you doing? Frankie Pickles is on. How are you doing? That's where you get your experience, guys. Now, if I could sit here and be like every other podcast and everybody else and just say shit. I'm not doing that for AEW. I'm not doing that for Impact. This is supposed to be, you're supposed to be learning because these guys and girls don't have the proper place to learn. So how are you supposed to gain the experience? They're gaining it on the job and on live TVs. It's not like when I did at WWF that we had a veteran who can carry you through things and get you through. It's not the same. A pass on both these subjects. Guys, I know you'll do better. I know the next explosion will be tremendous, and then they'll say you use too much pyro. And for the girls, make it count, guys. Make it count. What's next on the agenda?
So you're giving them a pass on those two things. Okay. How about the cover up on Dynamite when Moxley and what's his name? Our favorite, the guy that covered him up. I'm having a brain block here. Kingston. Sorry, Eddie Kingston. They covered it up that Eddie had an anxiety attack. Like, that was the story. Like, man, when I got in the ring and I didn't know if that ring was going to explode or not, I remembered when I was in jail and I had this huge flashback to a panic and anxiety attack and I blacked out. That was the cover. And then they had Don Callis and Omega doing an interview later on in the show saying, we just didn't deliver because we didn't want to give you fans what you wanted, a true explosion. They literally told both of those scenarios on the same show. Are you going to give those a pass as well? That's more in the creative cover-up. I think they should have just let it go. I don't think they should have overcomplicated it like that. What do you think?
Botched finishes. Okay, let's go botched finishes. Over the top battle royal, whose feet land on the ground first? Was it Cena? Was it Batista? Was it Big Show? Was it The Rock? You should, in my opinion, you should have just let it go.
Let it go, okay.
You shouldn't have said anything. My opinion,
yeah.
Because you're talking old school, you come back the next week and say, Moxley says, you want to know something? I can make things explode. And you see an explosion outside the arena where he hits the ding, bang, and the explosion goes up. If that's what you want, Kenny Omega, I'll make the ring next time. There you saved everything.
Yeah, I like that.
But it's the truth. They tried to do it on the run. The thing that gets me sometimes with AEW, Arn Anderson is back there. Tully Blanchard's back there. Billy Gunn is back there. Jerry Lynn is back there. Now, these are guys with 25 years and better, guys. Dustin Rhodes is back there. Dean Malenko is back there.
Jake
the Roberts is back there. You mean to tell me that nobody is talking to these guys and asking them what to do? I don't know, guys.
Another good point.
I find it hard to believe. I understand the fact that everybody's getting a paycheck. Everybody's happy to be there. No, you're not making that kind of money. But there comes some point where you got to have some pride and dignity in something you've done for 30 years, no matter what. You know, even Taz is there, and Taz has got 30 years in the business. And I know some guys just don't say nothing. Some guys just go along with the program. Some guys say, nobody asked me, nobody says anything. But with the experience they have behind the scene, they could ask somebody something. My opinion, maybe not the right opinion or the wrong opinion, but just that's the way I see it. That's the way I look at it.
Oh, well said. Yeah, and we'll get off those topics. And now let's go to actually something more storyline driven instead of actually physically botched. This was interesting. You kind of thought something like this was going to happen sooner rather than later. And the Inner Circle had their War Council meeting at the end of Dynamite.
Yes.
And like we suspected, there was going to be something, a rift between MJF and Jericho. So, they made it look like MJF was trying to recruit the other members of Inner Circle and for all of them to turn and attack Jericho. And it appeared that way, and the guys slowly started going towards Jericho, and then they turned around, the original Inner Circle, and looked back at MJF saying, nope, buddy, this is our group. And then Jericho proceeded to kick MJF out. They pushed him down. And this is when MJF said, "Oh, I knew you guys were going to do that. I've created my own faction." So MJF now has a faction of himself, Wardlow, of course, who is with him in the Inner Circle, FTR, so the Revival, and Shawn Spears, Tully Blanchard. Did this happen like you wanted to, Vito? You're going to have a faction on faction. I think we can assume Inner Circle might be turning babyface because of this. But that's how it happened. Take it away.
Didn't I say Jericho was going to turn babyface? I said it. The ratings, people need something to cheer about, and they need something to look forward to. Jericho's best work is when he's a babyface. They need
you
this
think
right
so?
now.
Do you really truly believe that? Because I think he had maybe today, but I think he had a hell of a heel run in 2008 and 9 with Shawn Michaels. Remember when he wore the suit, spoke slow with the big words? I thought that was awesome heel work.
Yeah, but when you talk about the list, let's talk about the list, right? You just made the list. That was awesome. And then he wound up turning babyface against Kevin Owens. That was awesome. I loved that. That was great. That was great.
And that was more recently. What I'm talking about was over a decade ago. So in the last 5 or 6 years, okay, I'll buy that.
Jericho is best as a heel by himself when he's given time and they're telling a story. Yes.
Okay.
He's got 5 other guys to take care of. He's been taking care of all these guys. Sooner or later, that's going to get stale. And it got stale. And the stuff didn't look good. Now these guys are together and they're going to be baby faces. Now, you can see them at parties. You can see them at rock concerts. You can see them at the football game. You can see them at the pool parties. You can see them on the cruises. Now you can actually talk to them, have a good time. Everybody's happy, right?
And the fans singing the theme song of Jericho makes more sense.
Yes. So I said it a long time ago. Jericho is going to turn babyface, and everything is going to be good.
So, and I'm interested in this. Like I thought maybe they could have did it a little bit differently, but the fact is, Inner Circle appears to be babies now, and you have the heel group with MJF. They're going to feud. Let's see how it plays out. So I'm going to give this a pass. Everybody says I criticize AEW constantly. This intrigues me. I'm excited to see how this unfolds. That's me giving a positive statement of something that I'm enjoying from AEW. I just wanted to get that out there.
Now, guys, remember, when you have individuals that are not doing nothing, you have to have a creative mind to create something so they're involved. Now, Shawn Spears and Tully Blanchard, they were left out. Soon as Shawn Spears cracked Cody Rhodes' head open, that was the end of him. Right? It was a mistake. That's his buddy. Yeah. But careless. All right, that's done. You had Spears doing all these jobs. Tully Blanchard looking like a fool. That's not what you want. You had the Revival. They come in. They run their feud. They win a title. They lose a title. Where do you go from there? Waldo and MJF, they were hanging out with somebody else's group. So now you put this faction together of a bunch of guys not doing anything to try and make a powerhouse team. Same thing they did with the Baldies in ECW. I was there. I was doing great. They did not have a top spot for me. So they took 3 other guys who had bald heads, and they said, let's call you guys the Baldies. I was doing my thing, but they had 3 other guys not doing nothing, and everybody can't be a single. And that's how the Baldies came together. Guys, a good faction. Let's hope this lasts into something. I mean, because once this group breaks up, then we're back to square one. I mean, what are you going to do then?
Maybe that'll be the time MJF's ready to get put into the title picture. Maybe this is to get him to that next level.
I just don't see him as a title heavyweight champ. I don't see it. I don't see
Well,
it.
it's AEW. Anything's possible. Vito, this is an interesting one. You're calling transitional champion.
Yes.
So over the weekend, Moose had a match against Rich Swann in Impact to determine the undisputed Impact World Champion. And I figured maybe Moose would win. No, Rich Swann won. So the theory is he's going to job these at some point to Kenny Omega, Don Callis' buddy. So Kenny Omega can be holding all the gold on AEW television. What do you think here? Is this what's going to happen? Did Rich Swann win this title over Moose because that's the guy to drop it to Kenny Omega if they do go that route? They might not, but what do you think?
This guy Moose, from what I've seen, they're looking to build with him because I seen him do a move off the top rope that was phenomenal.
Yes.
I loved it. I thought that was the athleticism he did it with. I put on Twitter, that should be a finish.
Yeah.
That was a finisher. That wasn't a spot to go into another spot. I didn't watch the match, but I just watched that particular Twitter feed. Guys, I thought it was great. I thought that was awesome. And I don't comment on moves. That should be a finisher. If you're going to finish somebody, that should be it. That was athleticism. That was awesome. This Moose kid, they weren't going to make him job and make him lose. He dropped the title to Rich Swann. Rich Swann has already won, already lost, already been in WWE, been out of WWE. He's a ping pong going back and forth. He took this title, but I doubt if he's going to, he's definitely not going to do it. They just did the thing with The Miz, and The Miz was transition because they didn't want, who was the champion? They didn't want McIntyre to job so they're protecting
Bobby,
Moose.
Yep.
Right. So I'm not saying nothing bad against Rich Swann. Okay, you're champion. I don't think it's going to be a run. I call transition champion.
Is it going to Kenny, you think? Is this going to be something so he can have all those title belts to look like he's this great world champion of many promotions?
I don't see it. When he mixes in, if you're going to be a great world champion, right? Ric Flair was with the Horsemen. When it was Ric Flair time, he stepped above. Right? When
Always.
Big Vito was hardcore champion, he stepped above the tag team title. When he was coming, you knew he was champ. You knew he was going to do business, right? When Nunzio was with me and he was cruiserweight child, I said, Nuns, you got to fight like a champion. You're still fighting like a contender. He says, what do you mean? And these are two guys. This is my buddy, my friend. And I said, Nuns, you got to take charge of the match. You got to let the people know you're in the house and this is your ring and this is what you got to do. He started to fight like a champion. This is what it's going to take. Kenny Omega has put himself in with Don Callis, the Good Old Boys, somebody else, and he's just cluttered. He's not shining. When you seen him first do his interviews, he slouched. He came in a T-shirt. He didn't look like a champion. I'm sorry.
So what do you think is going to happen with the Impact World title now that Rich Swann has it, though? Like, to me, that's where I could, with Don Callis being involved, that's where I see, or is somebody else in Impact going to beat him for it? What do you call? Because did you not say that you think Swann's a transitional?
Yeah, I think that it's going to go to Kenny Omega. But then I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to say it here. AEW, guys, book this. AEW is going to sign somebody on a surprise. Now, AEW and Impact are working together. This gentleman is going to be a surprise challenger in our Impact, where Don Callis is going to do the heel turn on Kenny Omega, and he's going to bring in this new challenger. Now, this challenger is going to be somebody awesome, somebody we all love, somebody we believe in, that's going to beat Kenny Omega. You heard it here first.
Big cast with Enzo. No, he might. I was just saying that to be funny. Although I do like those guys, and we talked about them last week. I do hope they rise back into the business.
Guys, there's a couple of players out there. Who would you think would go to Impact on the QT in a surprise match on AEW, representing the Impact to get the title back? Who would you pick?
Man, that's a good question. I'd have to see who's available out here. Ryback?
No.
I was just throwing his name out there because you stumped me, Vito. I'm more curious to hear you.
Anybody remember a guy named Kurt Angle, Impact World Heavyweight Champion?
Yeah, and he looks like he's in pretty damn good shape.
Anybody remember a guy named The Rock? Tony Khan's got a lot of dough. Hey, if The Rock showed up on Impact, would that bring your ratings up 1 million?
Yeah, but I think that has 0% chance of happening. Although AEW, I would give that a positive % chance because but Impact's definitely. I don't think so. But to your point, anything like that happening would turn the world around.
Now, what happens? Sure. I know Impact is not the grand stage of the WWE, but not many places are. What happens if The Undertaker just happened to stroll down the aisle at an Impact? Challenge Omega. Are you talking about a quick friggin' destroyal of a match?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned these names like this, Vito. I mean, I can throw Punk, Lesnar out there, because this is like, think about this. They gave the hype for somebody signing at Revolution last week like it could be somebody that big, to your point. A name you'd never expect that was freed up from WWE. They could do whatever the hell they wanted. And I don't think they should have made that the case because when Christian showed up, he's great. He's good. But the expectation – a lot of people were thinking, oh, my God, we're going to see Punk come back. This is going to be a huge name. That it was only a letdown for Christian to show up. So it's interesting that you're naming these big names because you're absolutely right. That's what wrestling fans want. They want to see the holy shit return like back in the day when we used to have WCW, ECW, WWF. But then these guys like Christian get thrown in, and it belittles them, even though it shouldn't because they're great in their own right. So I had to mention that because we're going to be talking about Christian. And I need to know your thoughts with him, too. And didn't Paul Heyman say something about him this weekend?
Yes. Paul Heyman said Christian ran away because he didn't want a job and lose to Roman Reigns. I'm going to say this, guys. Christian going back to the WWE, everybody wanted to see it. But what did they really want to see? They wanted to see the tag team of Christian and Edge. Christian didn't have a shot in hell at being world champion. He did have a shot at being tag team champion, a la the Hardys, right? You want to bring back the guys who were there. If you put Christian in the mix on TV, where does he go? Does he fight Bobby Lashley? Because you don't see him winning. You don't see him fighting Roman Reigns. You don't see him winning there. Do you put him in the United States title picture? No luster. You put him with the other title? Nah. Only place for Christian to go, in my opinion, in the WWE. Tag team champion.
Yeah. But guess where he went, and guess where he's mixed up with and who?
So
main event.
Guys, it was a good signing. It's somebody who could work, somebody who you definitely want to see. We'll see what they're going to do with him. You know?
Yeah.
The guy who I don't know, and this is something new. I'm just going to throw this out there since we're talking. What's the status of Carlito? Because I thought he should have had the biggest entrance, the biggest thing, and they kind of like just shit. It was I thought they blew it by wasting him at that.
I mean, he showed up at Royal Rumble, and I don't know if these were paid by appearances, but I don't think he's got a contract. I still think he's a free agent. I mean, I could be wrong, but I haven't seen him on WWE TV.
But the rumors say that he's supposed to be an agent. They were going to try him out as that he was signed and they're trying him out as an agent. So that doesn't make sense. Either you're going to wrestle or you're going to be an agent.
Yeah.
One or the other. So I'm thinking, okay, he just came in for an appearance. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Come in, make an appearance. Hey, we'll see what happens. Would you like to be an agent? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Could I see him being an agent for the Spanish NXT? Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Chavo Guerrero was supposed to be part of that. So, it would be a good mix.
Yeah, and that could still very well be the case. That he's working
Virtue,
with them.
what would you do if Carlito showed up on AEW?
I think that would be a heck of a signing. I mean, that would be, starting to get guys like him and Christian. But again, they shouldn't overhype it like they do. So when guys like that show up, there's no expectation of Brock Lesnar. But yeah, I'd be all for Carlito.
And this is no disrespect to CM Punk. Everybody says CM, but I think he's happy doing what he's doing and living his life. He did his MMA, he did his stuff, and I think he's very, very well taken care of. Does he need the wrestling? I don't know. Does he like to keep his dabble in it and play the game? Yeah, like everybody else. If he was going to come back, I think his timeline to come back would have happened already. For him to come back in an empty arena is not going to have the same reaction.
No, it definitely will happen when people are back, and it's the never say never in the wrestling business, Vito. That's why I think he will at some point.
I think AJ Lee going back to the women's division in the WWE would be phenomenal.
They should come back as a pair.
Both of them can handle themselves on an individual level. So you definitely need each of them in their own way. Imagine you put AJ Lee in the women's division in AEW. She would stick out like a sore thumb. It'd be like Sasha Banks going there. You know what I mean? It doesn't belong. You know what I mean? Because, not to say the women of AEW are not good. There are some good young wrestlers there. Girls who, when they gain some experience, will be phenomenal wrestlers and entertainers. They all got some quality about them. That's what I like about the AEW females. They all got quality. It's just a matter of just getting their timing down, getting their feet wet, and taking off. But everybody shits on them all the time. But guys, you don't become a superstar overnight. And these girls, they're inexperienced. I'm not saying they don't have it, but they don't have live TV experience. Give them some time. They will be good.
Well said. We still have a few more topics before our main event. So
well, go, man.
These are more like random Vito thoughts on these topics. I don't really need to go in depth on them. So let's get this one out of the way. Kurt Angle says Taz was a safe worker with his suplex. Everybody knows Taz delivered some very brutal suplexes, dropping guys on their head, ECW. You were there. What's your take on that? I mean, Kurt Angle, I believe it. I buy it.
Kurt Angle wasn't there in the beginning when Taz was training, and we both trained at Johnny Rodz' school. Taz learned how to be safe at Johnny Rodz' school. I remember the day Johnny pulled him aside and said, Taz, when you take these guys, you got to be safe, and you got to teach them to take your bump and do what you need to. Taz perfected the suplex. That's what he wanted to be, right? He learned how to take care of guys and suplex guys. I, fortunately, and, on a good thing, I work with Taz 10,000 times over. I've taken millions of his suplexes. Never hurt me once. So Kurt Angle coming out and say, yeah, Taz, no.
Well, didn't Kurt say he was safe?
Yeah, but Vito Skull LaGrassa was saying, hey, Kurt, it's nice that you came along afterwards, but when he was learning, he was also safe. So if you're going to look for an endorsement on Taz, I've been around him a lot longer, and I wrestled him in his prime, and I wrestled him quite a bit. He definitely was safe, and he took care of you on his suplexes.
All right,
especially the one with the leg on the shoulder and throwing up, and I was good with them all.
So Kurt Angle said it, but Vito LaGrasso backed it up because he did it with him more. So I like that. I like where you went with that. All right, how about this topic? Asuka gets a concussion, supposedly, allegedly, this past week from Shayna Baszler. Like, come on, Vito. This is WrestleMania season. This stuff should not be happening. How do they protect themselves better?
I heard about it. I didn't see what happened. Was it pretty devastating?
It was one of those, as you're watching it live, you just figured it was normally worked, but then going back and looking at it, you're like, holy crap, okay, I see where that might have happened. And it's like, you got to limit these accidents, right? I mean, they're going to happen. You probably, if it's physical, it's a physical job, right?
Right.
But I just feel like this happens way too often. I mean, remember Alexa Bliss getting a bunch of concussions? Now she doesn't really work much. She's in a gimmick protecting her from these. They just need to settle down. I mean, you're the pro. You've been the one that's had concussions and stuff. So I know you didn't see it, but just in general, they need to protect themselves, Vito.
Best thing I could tell the girls and the guys out there, guys, take care of each other, because I know today there's a lot of things you want to get in, a lot of things you want to do, but back when I was wrestling on a full-time basis, there weren't as many injuries as there are today. And I will leave it at that.
Yeah, good point. Almost time for the main event, but what is your thought on Johnny Ace? John Laurinaitis is back in charge of WWE Talent Relations. On the No DQ review, I said it's another figurehead so Vince McMahon can fire or put the blame on a year down the road when things don't look good. Because he's had this job before. Then he went away. Obviously, we know Triple H kind of stepped in doing the stuff with NXT, that Mark Carrano guy. But Johnny Ace is back in this spot. Another yes man like Bruce Pritchard, or is he legitimately good at finding talent? What do you think?
Guys, I have my thoughts on John Laurinaitis and the WWE. I'm going to say this, and I have to be very, very clear. There are some things that are good and some things that are bad. Some things get taken care of very well. Some things don't get taken care of very well. Always show respect to your peers and the people you work with. Always take care and look out for people when you're in a figurehead of power. Never abuse your power and never take advantage of people. My observation in the years I've been in wrestling, I've seen a lot of different things, and I've seen a lot of different people abuse power. I'm not a fan of it. When you use your power to help people, that's when you know you are a true boss and a true good person. I only hope that from this time forward, the power that is invested in that the WWE has invested in someone like John Laurinaitis, I hope he uses it to benefit and help and develop today's talent and learn some things from past that maybe has caused some grief in the wrestling world. That's it.
Well said. Well said, my man. All right. I had to get your thoughts on all that stuff because that was the hot topics. Those were the news that were all over the sites this week, and we got to hear what Big Vito thinks about them. Well, how about this one for our main event? So we know the whole Jim Cornette gimmick. He says outlandish things. It's like he's, is he in gimmick? Does he really feel this way? But he's always been this way. He says what he wants on his own podcast, on his own network, and he reviews wrestling shows such as AEW. He said some things about Kip Sabian, his girlfriend Penelope Ford, and, of course, Miro himself. And Miro, the big bad wrestler who came out on a tank at WrestleMania as Rusev, who got his chant called Rusev Day over. Both times Vince McMahon did not push this guy to the main event. And I often criticize McMahon, like, what are you doing maybe there's an underlying reason why he did not feel this guy was next level main event material, because Miro was acting like one of the fans. I don't know if this is his gimmick in AEW, but he's a video gamer and he's going on social media like fans do and trolls, and he's calling out Jim Cornette, who does not work for the company, at least as far as I know. Interesting. Jim Cornette's going to own this guy, and I know, we're Vince Russo guys, right? We know that Russo and Cornette don't see eye to eye, but oftentimes the old school and Jim Cornette makes sense. His vision of wrestling makes sense compared to where it's went today. What is your take here on Miro publicly? Let's do this thing, Jim Cornette, and if he's working us, he's making me believe it, but he's looking like a fan, not a pro main event wrestler.
Guys, let's talk about Jim Cornette for a second. I've been around him a long time, and I watched him go from the WWF, from Memphis to all the great promotions. The guy has the knowledge and the old school mentality that maybe is missing today. Some of the things he says can be misconstrued and come off as offensive. I think when you describe young ladies in the business, the word slut, pig.
Yes, he did say that, yeah.
Whore, the C word, bitch. I don't think you should use those words when describing these young ladies of today. I'm not trying to gain a fan base here. I'm just talking from my own words on how I have treated ladies in the business. You treat them as ladies. Whether they're good or bad, you always say good things, and you just try to overlook things. Could have had a bad day. It must be this. It must be that. Whatever the case. I just think the way things are described, with the way Jim Cornette talks about things, are rough around the edges. That is him. Like him or hate him.
Yeah.
He does have good points. But some of the way his representation of words, there's a lot to be desired of.
I agree with that. Yep.
Miro. I think he is an awesome wrestler. I wish I could wrestle against him. He's my type of wrestler. The push he had in WWE and the way they were going, they announced their engagement, him and Lana. Okay, down the tubes. He gets another little revival, and then we have Rusev Day. That's going awesome. Somewhere along the line, somebody pissed in somebody's Cheerios, and that went out. Then you have The Rock insulting his wife. That was my wife, and you said that, I'd crack your head open, but that's me. I don't give a shit if you're The Rock or not. Then you have the love affair with Bobby Lashley and Lana. You do have the right to say, no, I'm a married woman. I don't have to. Miro was with it. It was a gimmick, Not very tasteful. As far as him coming across as a fan, all I could say is that I don't remember a time when The Undertaker went after somebody on social media. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Hulk Hogan. These guys who were major players. Sting, Taz.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair. There comes a certain precedence where you say, okay, I'm going to tote the line. The fact that Miro was, defending a co-worker and defending this young lady, Penelope, I think is admirable. Could he have done it in a different manner? Yes.
Yeah, like privately.
Privately. Could Jim Cornette have said it a little nicer on describing this young lady and what they're about? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes emotions get the best of everybody. Today's a social media world, and today's social media carries a lot of things. And if Miro felt the need to do that, maybe somebody in the office said, "Hey, I understand you're upset. Can we tone it down a little bit? Because we would like to be 10 up on Cornett instead of at that level. Do prestigious things, do prideful things, carry yourself like $1,000,000, act like $1,000,000, dress like $1,000,000. How do people look at you? Like $1,000,000. So, what do we take it as? It was a big thing on the internet. It was a big thing to look at, guys. You just got to give it to social media of today in the year 2021 and take it for what it is. Because back in the day, if this was 20, 30 years ago, you don't hear of this stuff.
And it's not over because Cornett's podcasts are this week.
I know. Cornett is going to have some things to say. Yeah. I'm not really directing anybody to go listen to it. I'm sure everybody is going to go listen to it.
Yeah, the dirt sheets will talk about it, yeah.
Right, and I know Miro said there's going to be 40 views on YouTube. Maybe they'll get 50, but I'm sure everybody will go and listen. And I'm not knocking any individual. I'm just saying sometimes there's a better way to go about things. That's all. My take, my view.
That's what you're here for, Vito. So, in closing, what an epic show today. 45-plus minutes. Is there any big words of Big Vito that you would like to say in closing?
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this Getting Color because I thought this was a really good show. Informative, something that you could learn from. Very constructive criticism. And you know what, guys? Like we said, we're not here to bury anybody. We're here to help the business. We're here to not pass judgment. What's good is good. What's bad is bad. When there's a past to be given, there's a past to be living. Okay?
Please say that again.
Oh, that was Alexa. I got you, girl. Anyway.
I thought that sounded like Caitlin in the background of Aaron Riff's video.
Yeah, I know. Caitlin's everywhere these days. I'm telling you. Did you hear the crack of the whip also?
Yes. See how we got that in there?
I know, we had to. All right, Virtue, you can close the show. Hey, great job this week. Excellent show, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Virtue's going to close it out.
So you can follow Vito on Twitter at the Big Vito Brand. You can follow me at NoDQ_Virtue. If you want to troll slay with me, I get a lot of people to follow me, and some of them don't follow me. But nonetheless, if you just want a good time, go to Twitter. This has been Getting Color right here on thebigvitobrand.com. You can listen to it on Anchor, iTunes, I think all of those. Watch it on Twitch. And, of course, it does get tagged and posted over on NoDQ. Be sure to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/thebigvitobrand. And I think that covers all the major things, Vito.
I think we did it. Aaron Whip, where's the rip?
So, exactly. Big Vito, I am Virtue. This has been Getting Color right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. See you next time.
Here's your exclusive sneak peek at the Big Vito Brand on Patreon.
The Big Vito Brand presents Men of Business with your host, Big Vito Lagrasso and Big Ray Hernandez.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Men of Business, MOB. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Big Ray and I'm alive, Vito. I'm alive.
Ray, welcome back to the 813, kid. I'm glad to see you up and around. You see, we had to hold it down here at the 813 while Ray took a little sabbatical. There was a little controversy about pay, about vacation, about pizza. You know, he thought he was with the Russo brand. I said, yo, bro. I said, I got you, dog. I got you.
So right now, I think both squads look really good. And I think both squads are both favorites to take the East in the National and American, right?
Yes. I think the Mets just need to upgrade third base. I could see Villar, who they signed as a utility player, but they're paying more than J.D. Davis taking over at third base. That guy's been hitting a ton. I could see Herman learning a lesson and going back to that sensational year he had of being 18-4.
This guy is unhealthy every year, and he's always building his way back up to becoming who he may be or should be. But that's every year, so he never gets there. You know what I mean?
You know when he was his best?
Talk to me.
When he had his part, when he was teamed with Carmelo. Carmelo inspired him.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear about him blocking shots in Dallas. When he was with the Knicks, he was blocking shots. He was a rim protector. So you have Carmelo balking him, and the guy looked up to Carmelo. And when you talk about what he was doing, I don't think he's playing at that Carmelo level.
No.
Not that he's not playing good.
Right.
He's not playing the all-around game. His offense was always there.
So with that being said, Vito, I'm going to let you go on this. Vito, I'm going to ask you to shoot on the fact that the Fed from New York has hired back John Laurinaitis. It's all yours. Mm-hmm.